Geridens Victor is my name, and today we are going to look at introduction to purchasing. Procurement already finished. As we mentioned before in our first lecture, we say purchasing works closer with procurement, though purchasing is a sub-activity of procurement. Purchasing generally has no universal definition. So in other words, there is no clear definition for purchasing. That's why you will find that we say it has no universal definition of it's just defined as a skill. It can be defined, skills required vary, because the skills required vary by the situation, the strategy, importance, spent amount, supplier relationship. So purchasing depends on what is needed, what is on the ground. That's why we cannot have a very universal definition of purchasing skill. Recognition of purchasing as a role differ across organizations. Every organization refers it differently. I've already mentioned that. And why that it matters. It is defined depending on why and how it matters to the organization. All organizations need inputs from external suppliers. Purchasing ensures timely and effective provision of these inputs. So, in other words, purchasing is just a concept or a point that involves you acquire goods for sale, for consumption, no much steps, in other words. So, every organization has a way it defines purchasing. Growth over time of purchasing, increased role since the 20th century. So purchasing keeps on growing, differ differently since the 20th century. Of course, purchasing improved most of the logistics and procurement concepts of purchasing that include purchasing increased or started developing during the World War I, World War II. They started improving the new trend of ICT coming in. So they started improving. So since the mid-20th century, purchasing role started improving. People started wanting it more, mostly in the army, how weapons have to be moved from one position, how food for army has to be moved. It gained strategy relevance in recent years, of course. In the recent years, it was included in the universities for studies, so it became a concept that has to be understood better. Drivers of change, what made purchasing to grow from where it was and it is growing daily? The philosophies, the new management philosophy, we have the TQI, which is the total quantity management, which looks at customer satisfaction, ensuring customer satisfaction. We have the Lean also, which looks at ensuring the customer are given exactly what they need at the right time. Then also just in time, coming in of just in time, that is supplying what is needed at exactly time. This is also another point. So all coming up of these philosophies made purchasing to improve, to grow. Then what made it also to grow or to change, or drivers that made it to change from what it was to the modern purchasing activities of late? We have technological advancement. ICT has made things more easy. We have the first point, which is economic. The first point, which is DID. This is all connected to data interchange, economic data interchange, where data is easily interchanged between organizations. So this has made things more easier for purchasing to grow. Then we have the e-procurement, where people procure products online. You order online through the system, and the product is delivered to your location immediately. Another driver of change in purchasing is the environmental policies. Of late, we have very many environmental policies that guide procurement process, and this has caused purchasing to change, to merge to what the policies say. We have the environmental policies. We have very many other policies that are policies connected to labor use, policies connected to employment. All these policies have made purchasing to change. So all these have driven purchasing to be something that has improved from what it was before. Then globalization and intense competition. Of course, we are already in a global market today. Companies go and buy from outside or abroad or maybe beyond borders, what we say overseas. So this globalization has made purchasing to change. Before, purchasing was something small, you buy from this and just within a community, but the globalization has improved the purchasing process. So this caused a change whereby someone from South Sudan can buy from China, and this has improved the purchasing. Then competition. Factories or industries within Africa compete with Chinese industries. So the purchasing process of raw materials has to be intensified because of the competition. People compete for the little resource and all that. So this competition has caused purchasing process to change. People come up with new ideas on how best to purchase what they want. Then fewer but larger suppliers. Very few but they're large. So they control the market, they control the raw materials they want, how they purchase, how they move these products to their warehouse, all causes changes in the purchasing process. Let's go quick on this. What is purchasing? We are talking about purchasing right from the first point. Acquiring goods or work, service or work in return for price. I already talked about for resale. You acquire goods or services because you want to sell it and make profit out of it. That's purchasing. Introducing acquisition for conversion and consumption or resale. It can be defined as, it can include, as a definition, it includes acquisition for conversion, consumption or resale, which is closely related to the first definition, whereby we buy because we want to convert it to something else, or we buy a raw material, we need to remanufacture something from it. Then maybe consumption, final use, then also maybe we buy so that we resell it for profit. Activities, coordinating with departments, these are the activities in purchasing. Market study, you coordinate, departments coordinate, before I skip that point. Market studies and supplier identification. You study the market, then you identify suppliers. You do negotiation and select, then you do the ordering. I already mentioned this in our first lecture. The procurement, those activities involved, the function of the procurement. Negotiation is there, selection, then you select your supplier. Negotiation can be done after selection can be done after supplier, after negotiation, whereby you negotiate with 2 or 3, then you choose the one who is offering the best value for money. Then you make your order. It can be done before or after, depending on what strategy the procurement department has in place. Contract administration and record keeping. Of course, this is a contract management whereby you track the schedules from this point to this point. This must have been done from this time to this. For this week, we must have the slab board. For this week, we have the wall. All these are contract administrations. Then we have records, where records are kept. This activity has been done. This one was not done. This one was faced by this challenge. All these records are used for future improvement. Perspective of purchasing. What is involved in purchasing, in other words? For the functions, we have specialized departments which has to be involved in the procurement process, which is the purchasing department. Every organization has a purchasing department which has to deal. Mostly, as I say, purchasing and procurement move together, so they are always sister, they are always together there. Procurement, purchasing, they are always. Or if the procurement is big, they get a purchasing department that has to work closely with the procurement, monitored under procurement department. So that is one perspective that has to be in the purchasing. The process of the purchasing is requisition. Requisition is when a department requests for something. We need computers. Then the requisition is sent to the purchasing department. Then the purchasing department will collect quotations or prices from possible suppliers. Then the suppliers are selected, or before selection, or they are selected, or negotiation is done, whatever step is there. Okay, let me use this. We get the quotations. After getting quotation, we invite the suppliers one by one for a negotiation. Or if there are too many, we reduce their number by selecting few, then we negotiate with the few at any point that is right there. So we get the quotation, we negotiate the lowest or the value, the one who is offering us value for money. Then we put our order, which is the purchase order. We give them an order for them to supply us through a document called purchase order. Then we receive our products and we confirm the receipt of the products through signing the delivery note. Then we pay the person who supplied us. That is basically the process of purchasing. As you see, it is very close and very short compared to procurement. Supply chain links connects internal operations with external suppliers. Inside purchasing department has to connect with the outside suppliers. Relationships, it involves both internal teams and external suppliers. Of course, that is the relationship. The purchasing department, which is from us, the buying organization, then we are connected to the suppliers. Then discipline draws knowledge from multiple fields, of course, economical, law, and management. So because of the purchasing, we are guided by different departments that are guiding the purchasing department. So in other words, we get a lot of knowledge from the law, because we are guided by the law and all other activities. Yeah, so when we mention, so I think here we have so much gone. Here we are comparing procurement to purchasing, still coming. We say procurement is broader than purchasing, composes borrowing. Remember I said purchasing is shorter, but here procurement involves borrowing, leasing, or even force. Historically, there are some historical forces whereby you procure by force. Someone wants or not, you take it. You pay for it and take it. That is part of it. You lease. Leasing is when you use for a specific period of time, maybe a vehicle, you take a vehicle, a house. Of course, there are steps, but in procurement, we do the leasing. You give somebody to use your property, then that person pays you for it. In Juba, it is a very common activity whereby people lease land, and for investors come, they use the land for some maybe 10 years, then they give back the land to the owner. That is the leasing. Then borrowing is when you borrow, but you return it back to the owner. Borrowing may not necessarily require paying or paying for what you've taken, just giving it for free use, then you return. But leasing, you pay for it, then you return. So procurement involves this activity, but purchasing in our previous negotiation is just a straight. In our previous lecture, it's just a straight activity. You pay for it, you get, you negotiate, you request, you get the quotation, negotiate, you order, you receive what you want, and you pay for it. Then all activities includes all activities to obtain goods and services. Those are mostly the purchasing activities. Also, they are also included in the procurement process. We can define it as meeting organizations' need through sourcing from outside. It involves what, how much, and when to procure. Of course, those are the procurement. What do you want, at how much, or at what price, and when do you want it? Procurement activities, developing specifications and requirements. When we talk about developing specifications and requirements, this is the user department. They come up with, I say, if a hospital needs an ambulance, they are the ones to describe the ambulance they want. So when they describe the ambulance they want, they give it to the procurement. That is the involvement of the specification. It may involve the procurement department, but the user department has to play the major role here. And what is required. Then the procurement department now, after they get the specification of what they want, they will conducting market and material study, what is needed and where can we get it. If suppliers are within the country or if they are outside the country, then performing all purchasing tasks. You will remember this, I'll go back. All purchasing activities, which is the requisition, get quotation, negotiate, you make the order, you receive what you order, then you do the payment. Of course, that is in the procurement here. Then also we have managing supplier quality and transportation. So we manage the quality supplier is giving us by requesting for samples. Sometimes you give us sample before you deliver. You give us the sample. Then we ensure when you are to deliver, you pack it or do packaging according to what we want. Then transportation is involved. It depends. Transportation may be from the supplier or from the buyer or from the procurement department. Investment recovery. Investment recovery is when this one we can put under value for money to ensure that what is procured is according to what we have invested or what the money injected. It's worth it. Let's look at the benefits of procurement. Ensures high quality and defect-free supplies. Of course, we mentioned about that. The samples, you ensure they give you samples first so that you have the high quality you need. Reduce supply chain costs. When everything is in order, we reduce the additional costs that may come because of returning goods. You have loaded the container already with an ambulance, you discover it's not what we need, we offload it, all that. So a good procurement process will reduce that unnecessary cost. Shortens time to market. When you have already procurement helps you to identify suppliers. You can have these suppliers under vendor database. So when you need them, you just invite them to give them the price they offer, and you're good to go. So in other words, the procurement process or the process of marketing is reduced because you already have a vendor database. Control access to core competence. So already we have access to core competence. So you can easily control what you have. You have the core competence, what is needed, how procurement is supposed to be done, and you know how you control this, in other words. So it is very easy because you already have the principles of procurement, you have the law, all that put together. So it's easy to control the process itself. Ensure continuity and reduce risks. You already have your suppliers, you have suppliers you have made friendship with. So it is very easy to continue the procurement. If you have another procurement, you can do direct procurement. We need this, the person supplies. We need this, he supplies, because you have already established a good supplier relationship. Understanding the procurement, here I'll go so quick because it's more of under procurement management. Definition, coordinating people, understanding management and procurement. Of course, we are looking at the procurement management. Coordinating people and resources to meet goals. Of course, when we talk of management, we talk of planning, coordinating, controlling, and monitoring. So you put all this together is you coordinate the people with the resources so that you meet what the user department want from you. Also, in management, we look at the 6 M's of the resources. We manage the money, we manage the people, we manage the money, we manage the material, the machinery involved, the methods that are being used to implement the procurement, and the markets where we buy all the things. So all this, we put them together. This is what makes the people and resources so that we meet the goals that we want. What are the goals? Efficient use of resources to achieve results. Those are the goals. What do we need to achieve? We need to achieve results, in other words. So basically, dear students, we have managed to understand at this point what is basically procurement. In our next lecture, we shall look at the supply chain management, which is the next part that we are going. That is topic number 3. We're going to look at supply chain management. So I look forward for us also to have that together with us as we move forward. Thank you so much and have a good evening.